My name is Steve Melzer. I'm a local resident of Midland, Texas, which is a hotbed of activity right now. And we're also the home to about 50 or 60 CO2 floods. And I've been concentrating on that side of the consulting business for quite some time. I wanted to start this story out by telling you a little bit about the history of the conference. And the year was 1995, and I was newly appointed by the University of Texas system as director of the Petroleum Industry Alliance. I was charged with developing a program for the University of Texas system and the university lands to support development of projects with the oil and gas industry of the Permian Basin. At this moment in time, the large oil fields were thought to be already discovered and secondary water flooded, in fact. So the industry's onshore focus in the U.S. was really considered to be tertiary flooding. And in our case, in West Texas, with all our infrastructure, it would be CO2 EOR. This, of course, was long before the unconventional reservoir and horizontal drilling revolutions. So the majors bought into the idea that the conference was a good idea, and the first forum was planned at the new facility between Midland and Odessa called SEED. Well, the idea of the CO2 conference required the cooperation of the majors. And the fact that Shell was involved initially really did help, but we also had companies like Mobil, Texaco, Hess, Chevron, and a few others, and they had all of the experience and needed to be part of this new idea, this conference, if you will. The Permian Basin was where the folks that really wanted to understand CO2 needed to come and network. The talks were not about research, though. They were really about practical applications and experience in making a project an economic success. It was difficult for somebody not a part of the industry and not a part of the company doing the work to really get access to the best practices. And that's what the conference concept was all about. And it filled an important niche. I'd like to tell you where I think the conference might be going in the future. With the romance of the unconventional so-called shale wells, the interest in CO2 finds itself in about the same position when we started the CO2 conference in the mid-90s. But now what's occurring is that there's a worldwide movement to reduce greenhouse gas, and capturing CO2 emissions is gaining some momentum. Companies around the world are being asked what they are doing to reduce their footprint of emissions, and one could even argue that it's beginning to affect their stock prices. In early 2018, in a typical U.S. fashion of a carrot versus a stick, we got some legislation passed at the federal level to incentivize emission reductions and allow a project to qualify for a significant federal tax credit for capturing and storing CO2. Since CO2 EOR is the largest volume opportunity for storage and perhaps the least expensive way to do it, work is underway on a whole host of capture projects that try and capture the CO2 economically and have it industrially captured and stored. That'll do two things for us. It'll allow this industry to grow once again, but it'll also keep the professionals who know a lot about the subsurface and a lot about storing CO2 to be part of that. That's the objective we see in this coming conference, the 25th anniversary conference, and probably will be a focus from here on out.